Following on from my last video, I wanted to look at a few more stereotypes of INFJs and whether they apply to me personally. Most of these stereotypes, as in my last video, seem to be just black and white thinking. They forget that us humans aren't either A or B. We are all a mix of so many different characteristics from our genetics, how we are raised, our life experiences, what we decide to change about ourselves, how life teaches us, and so on. We are all complex, wonderful beings, and people need to stop putting us into groups that separate us into us and them. But that's a topic for another day. On to the video. First up is this strange belief that because we are feeling types, we aren't very logical or rational. I find statements like these to be odd, because they overgeneralize and don't take into account that being a feeler doesn't mean you're bad at being logical, the same way being a thinker doesn't make you cold and emotionless. It is just a preference. Everyone can make decisions based on logic and values, but feeling types will have a slight preference for deciding based on values over logic, and vice versa for thinkers. Plus, there will be a greater discrepancy for dominant thinkers and feelers, whereas those of us that have both judging functions in the middle, like INFJs do, will find it easier to switch between values and logic, based on which is more appropriate for the situation we are in. Hence, I am comfortable making decisions with my ENTJ partner, because I can understand his logic and rationale, and come alongside him with my own logic, but I am also able to use my values to add to that decision as well. Also, our upbringing and own personal decisions play a role in how logical we can be. Almost ironically, I value logic, so I have worked a lot on my TI over the years. It is very strong and can play a big role, especially when it comes to choosing what books, films, or games I want to play. They all tend to lean towards problem solving or deciphering things. Some feeling types will definitely have a preference for values, sometimes at the expense of logic. So yes, some INFJs can struggle to come across as logical, but making a sweeping statement is too close-minded. I've also done a degree, which has helped me to work a lot on my critical thinking, as I always had to back up my statements with a lot of proof. So it will definitely depend on the INFJ as to whether they come across as logical. In addition, we can sometimes be mistaken for INTJs, because many of us are so balanced between our judging functions that we can come across as highly logical at times, and therefore aren't seen as a stereotypical feeling type. Second is the whole special snowflake syndrome that I've come across, mainly from other types who feel that because we are so rare, we must think we are amazing and better than everyone else. Have you ever actually asked an INFJ about this? I can't speak for anyone else, but for me personally, I do not think my type is better than anyone else's. In fact, I think at times I'm at a big disadvantage, because there is such a big disparity between what is going on in my own head and what is happening in the world around me. It can be difficult to find people who can understand my struggles and empathize with me, because if I tried to explain my problems to most people, their heads would probably explode. Moreover, I struggle to just be happy with where I am in life. I always want to do more, be more, learn more, and I almost envy other types who are just content with the status quo. Also, in this special snowflake syndrome idea, is the strange belief that other types should actually want to beat us. Again, why? The world system is set up for censors because there are way more of them than there are intuitives. The whole work 9 to 5 to pay the bills, and then look forward to having a blowout on the weekend notion that is the norm these days just doesn't cut it for me. I want more. I want meaning. I want to do something productive with my life, rather than just run in this hamster wheel, going nowhere, until I can actually retire and have the money and time, but sadly not the energy to actually do what I want to do with my life. And it sucks being so rare sometimes. I don't personally know any other INFJ. I am like a polar opposite to most of the sensing world, and it can be really difficult for me to connect sometimes, because their way of thinking is so alien to me. Which is probably why so many of us are on YouTube and other sites. We just want to know that we aren't alone and the only weird one in the world. Thirdly, though this could probably apply to a lot of different types too, especially introverts, it's the belief that we are not in touch with reality and are stuck in our own heads too much. I am very present. I have FE second, and I can't help people if I'm not paying any attention to a word they've been saying. I find for me, I will only notice myself slipping away from reality if I've been forced into the sensory world for a long period of time and I'm in desperate need to escape and have a break. I'm not like this on a daily basis. I'm very in touch. I have a job that requires a high attention to detail, so I have to be present. I never notice myself drifting off during conversations with others. I save the daydreaming for when I'm alone. There are moments when I can slip into my own head too much and stub my toe on the wall, put the kettle in the fridge instead of the milk, or completely forget my train of thought. But again, this only often happens when I am in need of a break. So as long as I am getting enough time to recharge, this isn't an issue for me. Sure, I daydreamed lots as a child, but who didn't? School was horrid and I needed a way to escape and to pretend my life was happier. I just think this point is pushed too much, that because we have sensing last, we must spend all of our time in our own heads and never be in touch with reality, and this just is not the case. And lastly, based on INFJs having secondary FE, we must always be attuned into other people's needs and emotions. I don't always experience this. I can be very in touch with some people's emotions and needs, but it is often the people that I care about. I don't always walk down the street and feel hundreds of different emotions from everyone I see. I'm not an emotional vacuum, sucking up everyone's emotions and needs when they come within 6 feet of me. This also seems to be based on whether I need to recharge or not. I find it only gets overwhelming when I'm tired and need to recharge, or when I walk past someone or enter a room where someone has a big emotion, like being extremely scared about the virus. I pick up on that a lot at the moment, and it does get to me that I can make people petrified just by walking past them. That sucks. But in general, I can almost turn off my emotional antenna to stop receiving all the signals when I don't need or want to. I did find this difficult as a child, but I've learned to do this more as an adult. I don't know if any other INFJs find this too, that they only get bombarded with emotions that are very strong, like anger, fear and stress. Not often positive emotions though, which is weird. Or whether I have taught myself to shut off every now and then, to save me from becoming overwhelmed. FE is a very interesting function to have. It can be very positive and helpful for others, but it can also drain you and destroy you if you aren't careful. Anyway, I hope this video was interesting. I'm sure every single type would find lots of stereotypes about them that aren't true, so it is an interesting study to do. It can help us to understand more about how other people see you, because then you can know how to present yourself to them so that they can understand you better, if their opinion is important to you, of course. It's like having a parent or a sibling or a friend who is a censor and just writes you off as too deep and weird, but you want them to be able to understand you, at least a bit. Thank you for your time.